Picture this. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The house is dead silent. You are wearing your favorite pajamas, shuffling into the kitchen with one pure, noble mission to find a midnight snack. You reach out, grab the handle of your refrigerator, and pull it open. The warm little light comes on, illuminating the shelves like a stage. But instead of the glorious sight of leftover cake or a cold drink, you are hit square in the face by a smell so profoundly foul, so visually aggressive, that your soul temporarily leaves your body. It's a mix of wet gym socks, old garbage, and something that passed away in the year 2012. Your appetite evaporates, you slam the door shut, and you stand there wondering how a high-tech appliance designed to preserve food turned into a biological weapon. Hey everyone, Sal here. Welcome back. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the great domestic mystery that has baffled humanity since the invention of artificial cooling. Why does the refrigerator smell so bad, and how do we stop it? Because let's be honest, a smelly fridge isn't just an annoyance. It's an insult to your kitchen, your cooking, and your dignity. So, adjust your expectations, grab a notebook, and let's dive deep into the science of the stench. First, let's understand the enemy. What actually causes that refrigerator odor? A lot of people think the cold interior of a fridge is a magical vault where time stops and biological processes freeze. I hate to break it to you, but your fridge is not a time machine. The cold doesn't kill bacteria and mold, it just slows them down. It puts them in slow motion. Inside your fridge, there is a whole classification of microbes known as psychrophilic bacteria. These are cold-loving bugs that look at your 40-degree refrigerator and think, "Ah, perfect, a luxury resort." When food begins to degrade, even slowly, these microbes feast on the organic matter. As they digest the sugars, proteins, and fats, they release volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These are the gases that drift through the air and assault your nose. The classic fridge smell is usually a cocktail of these gases, shifting around an enclosed, unventilated space. Think about it. Your fridge is completely airtight when sealed. There is no cross-ventilation. Every single micro-spill of milk, every tiny drop of meat juice, and every forgotten piece of produce is trapped in a plastic box, off-gassing into eternity. And speaking of the cold, here is a quick pro tip. A lot of people accidentally bump their fridge's temperature dial. If your fridge is running at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, food spoilage accelerates exponentially. The golden rule for odor prevention is maintaining a strict internal temperature of exactly 37 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the temperature sweet spot to keep those microbes asleep. But here's where the plot thickens. The biggest contributor to a smelly fridge isn't always the big container of old food sitting right on the middle shelf. The real villains are the things we do out of pure habit. The common storage mistakes that turn our fridges into odor factories. Let's talk about the #1 storage blunder. The absolute abuse of cheap, flimsy plastic containers. I know we all have a drawer full of mismatched plastic tubs that we refuse to throw away. But here is the science. Plastic, at a microscopic level, is incredibly porous. It behaves like a dense sponge. When you store a highly aromatic, high-fat meal like a rich curry, a heavy gravy, or a mountain of leftover biryani, the fats and volatile oils trap those intense aromas. If you put that food in a cheap plastic container, or worse, just slap a standard dinner plate over a bowl, those aromatic molecules easily escape into the fridge air. They circulate, find a home in the porous plastic walls of the refrigerator itself, and permanently nest there. Another classic mistake is the naked produce phenomenon. People buy an onion, use half of it for dinner, and then toss the other half directly onto a fridge shelf, completely exposed. An uncovered cut onion is essentially a localized environmental hazard. It continuously pumps out sulfur compounds that will aggressively find their way into your milk, your butter, and even your ice cubes. Had you ever had a glass of iced water that tasted vaguely like garlic? Yeah, that's why. And let's not forget the silent leaks. When you bring home fresh milk packets or cartons, they often have microscopic residues of dairy on the outside from transport. If you slide them directly onto the shelf, those tiny drops dry up, become invisible, and provide a 5-star buffet for bacteria. Within 48 hours, that dried milk residue turns rancid, creating a sour, stale butter smell that lingers even if the milk inside the packet is perfectly fresh. Now, let's move to the most sinister, undercover criminal in this entire story, the rubber door gasket. When your fridge smells bad, you can scrub the glass shelves until they shine, throw away every piece of old food, wipe down the plastic walls, and yet, the smell persists. Why? Because you are ignoring the Border Patrol. The rubber gasket, that accordion-style seal that runs all the way around the edge of the fridge door, is the ultimate mold metropolis. Think about the physics of a refrigerator door. Every time you open it, cold air spills out and warm, humid kitchen air rushes in. The exact point where that hot air meets the freezing air is the rubber gasket. This constant temperature clash creates localized condensation. Water droplets form inside those deep, dark accordion folds of the rubber. Now add the fact that whenever we grab something from the fridge door, we accidentally drop tiny crumbs, sticky condiment drips, or finger oils right into those folds. You have trapped moisture, total darkness when the door is closed, and a steady supply of organic food crumbs. It is the absolute perfect microclimate for black mold and mildew to thrive. If you pull open the folds of your fridge gasket right now and see tiny black or dark green speckles, congratulations! You have a mold colony running a timeshare on your appliance. And that mold produces a heavy, musty, damp, sour odor that drafts into the main compartment every single time the door opens and closes. So, how do we clean it without destroying it? This is where people make a catastrophic mistake. The instinct is to grab a bottle of chemical bleach and blast the rubber. Do not do this. Bleach is highly corrosive to rubber compounds. It will dry out the gasket, cause it to crack, and ruin the magnetic seal, forcing your compressor to overwork and skyrocket your electricity bill. Furthermore, bleach only changes the color of mold on a porous surface. It doesn't kill the deep roots. Instead, your secret weapon is distilled white vinegar. The acetic acid in vinegar naturally penetrates the porous structure of the rubber and kills the mold spores at a cellular level. To clean it properly, fill a spray bottle with undiluted white vinegar. Gently pull the folds of the gasket open and spray it directly into the grooves. Let it sit there for 15 minutes. Give that acid time to do the heavy lifting. Next, take an old toothbrush and scrub deep into those grooves to physically dislodge the dead mold and any sticky grime. Wipe it clean with a damp cloth, and then, this is the most important step. Take a completely dry microfiber towel and dry it completely. Mold cannot survive without water. If you leave it bone dry, you cut off its life support. To maintain it and prevent future mold from ever taking root, apply a very thin, light layer of petroleum jelly or mineral oil along the rubber folds using a paper towel. This acts as a microscopic water repellent. Condensation won't be able to soak into the rubber. It will just slide off, keeping the area hostile to mold growth while keeping the rubber flexible and airtight. But wait, before we even talk about the specific foods you are putting inside the fridge, we have to talk about where the fridge itself is sitting. Yes, the actual physical placement of your refrigerator in your kitchen directly contributes to how bad it smells. It sounds crazy, but it's pure thermodynamics. Refrigerators don't create cold, they extract heat. If you shove your fridge right next to a hot oven, a dishwasher, or a window baking in the direct sun, the compressor has to work overtime. This causes micro-fluctuations in the internal temperature, meaning your food spoils and off-gases much faster than you realize. Plus, if you box the fridge tightly against the wall or inside custom cabinets without any breathing room, the shallow drip pan at the very back can't evaporate the condensation it collects. Without proper airflow, that drip pan turns into a stagnant, warm swab of bacteria, and that swampy smell drafts right back up into the main compartment. Now, while we are talking about that drip pan at the back, we have to mention the physical mechanism that leads to it, the defrost drain. Inside your fridge, usually at the bottom back wall, there is a tiny drain hole designed to channel condensation away. If a stray green pea, a tiny piece of plastic wrap, or a clump of dust clogs that hole, the water has nowhere to go. It pools under your crisper drawers and turns into a stagnant, foul-smelling swamp inside the actual food compartment. The fix is incredibly easy. Just take a cotton swab or a pipe cleaner and gently clear that hole out so the water can flow freely. But our defense strategy doesn't stop at the door seal or the placement. We also have to talk about what I call the fridge forbidden fruits, the everyday items that people worldwide mistakenly shove into the refrigerator, thinking they are helping, when they are actually causing the bad odors. Let's start with potatoes and whole onions. If you have potatoes and onions sitting in your fridge crisper drawer right now, pull them out. Whole onions need dry air and ventilation. When trapped in a cold, humid fridge, they get soft, moldy, and release an incredibly pungent, sulfurous rot. Potatoes are even worse. The cold temperature artificially forces the starches inside the potato to convert into sugars rapidly. This breaks down the cellular structure of the potato, making it weak moisture. If that moisture pools at the bottom of your drawer, It breeds an intense, muddy, earthy stench that is incredibly difficult to wash out. Next up, tomatoes. Cold air destroys the flavor membranes of a tomato, turning the flesh mealy and tasteless. But structurally, it causes the tomato skin to weaken and split. Once that skin splits, the sugary juices leak out onto the shelf, fermenting into a sour, vinegary puddle within days. Keep your tomatoes on the kitchen counter. And for my friends who love traditional cooking, let's talk about a major hyperlocal offender, Dosa batter. Dosa batter is a magnificent creation, but it is a live, active biological culture of wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria. When you put a giant bowl of freshly fermented batter into the fridge, the cold slows down the fermentation, but it does not stop it. The bacteria keep working, continuously releasing carbon dioxide and lactic acid. If you store this batter in a container filled right to the brim, that gas pressure will eventually force the lid open or cause the batter to overflow down the sides of the jar. Once that batter drips onto your fridge shelf, it hardens into a dense crust that slowly sours and rots in the damp air, creating an aggressive, yeasty, fermented stench that dominates the entire kitchen. Always leave at least 40% headspace in your batter containers. Keep them tightly sealed and burp the lid once a day to let the gases escape safely. And since we are talking about long-term maintenance, let me address the ultimate odor catastrophe, the vacation shutdown. So many people think they are being smart or saving money on electricity by unplugging their fridge before going on a long trip. Listen to me very carefully. Never ever turn off your fridge and leave the doors closed while you are away. Even if you empty it completely and wipe it down, microscopic bacteria and moisture are still trapped inside the plastic walls, the hidden vents, and those rubber seals. Without the cold air circulating to keep them dormant, those microbes will multiply rapidly at room temperature in a dark, sealed box. When you come back from vacation and open that door, you will be hit with a stench so deeply rotten that it is baked into the plastic. People have literally had to throw away entire refrigerators because they couldn't get the smell out. If you absolutely must unplug it for a long period, you have to physically prop the doors wide open so fresh air can circulate. Otherwise, leave it plugged in, turn it to the lowest energy setting, and let it do its job. Ultimately, keeping your refrigerator odor-free isn't about buying expensive chemical air fresheners that just mask the smell with artificial pine scents. It's about smart, tactical maintenance. Switch your leftovers from porous plastic to non-porous glass containers with airtight silicone seals. Wrap your fresh leafy greens in dry paper towels before putting them in a container to absorb excess condensation. Do a quick 10-second swipe of your door gaskets once a month with a dry cloth to eliminate standing water. Give your fridge a couple of inches of breathing room from the kitchen walls so the internal moisture can evaporate properly from the bottom drip pan. And, for a reliable passive defense strategy, skip the artificial sprays and just place a small bowl of activated charcoal or an open box of baking soda on the back shelf. These act as silent, continuous odor sponges that absorb stray gases before they can sink into the plastic walls. Think of your fridge as an investment in your health and your daily comfort. Treat it with a little respect, keep the microbes guessing, and you will never have to face a midnight biological hazard again. That is the science, that is the layout, and that is how you fix it. This is Sal, signing off. Keep it clean, keep it fresh, and I will see you in the next one.